Kris Oldland, Editor-in-Chief of Field Service News. Today I'm really pleased to bring you an excerpt from my recent interview with Jo Cherriman, who is a director with Surefire, a company that provide fire engineering service solutions across the UK on a nationwide basis. In this excerpt of the interview, I talked to Jo about how they approach selecting the right field service management solution for their business. Hi Jo, and thanks for joining us. We're going to be going through a few questions around your implementation of Tesseract, which is a Solvay solution that you've put in place to improve your field service delivery in terms of the implementation and the maintenance of the fire solutions that you provide your customers. But perhaps a good starting point would be if you could just tell us a little bit about Surefire.
Yeah, Surefire have been established for over 30 years. Started off as a very regional provider of fire protection services and equipment, covering installation and servicing of fire alarms, extinguishers, sprinklers, water mist, Ansel. And then over time, as the company has grown, we now support many different customers from restaurants, shops, through to banks, financial institutions, hospitals, schools, and now we're nationwide. So we have teams of engineers around the UK providing 24-hour support to our customers in respect of service, installation and call-out services.
Okay, and with that growth, especially being nationwide now, I assume that's quite a big driver for the need for you guys to kind of have a dedicated field service management solution. But before we get into that and the reasons why you chose Tesseract and how you implemented it and so on and so forth, perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about the solutions that you were using prior to this implementation?
Yeah, so we had obviously an engineering base and we were utilising a industry-specific CRM system, but really it was just a collection of data where we had contract information, customer details, engineers would obviously go out to calls and PPMs were generated from it. But what we were finding was that we weren't getting any reports really from it, or any sort of reports that we could work with and decide what we were going to do in the future in regards to labour or resources. The other thing we were finding was that we were using a separate software package for sales as well.
Right.
And what we'd like to do moving forward was integrate it into one system because we were finding there was lots of duplication of processes throughout the business.
So would you say it's fair, would you say it's correct to say that the primary driver then was perhaps improving efficiencies and giving you as the management team better visibility in terms of engineers, schedules, etc. like that? Was it a very efficiency kind of driven reason, the primary reasons to look into it? Yes,
certainly they were. Streamlining our processes, automating where we could, just looking at the engineers as well as we were growing, more engineers, more customers, more activities throughout the day that needed to be done. And of course it's managing all those activities through a central point. We weren't quite sure that our existing CRM system could manage that moving forward.
And how about for the engineers themselves? Were they completely using manual kind of job scheduling? Did they have any kind of mobility tools that you had at that time as well, or was it very kind of paper-based processes and kind of they would get their job schedule at the beginning of the day, etc.? Was there anything in place for them, or was this, because I know we'll touch on this a wee bit further down the line, but you've implemented systems for the engineers, given them iPads, etc. Was that a complete fresh thing for those guys? Did they have any tools in place at that time?
No, we didn't have any previous tools at all. There were no handheld devices at all. It was purely done through their iPhones with messages going through and Outlook calendars, checking to see where they were, giving them their work in respect of worksheets. So everything was done manually.
So you've mentioned quite an end-to-end approach to field service there. An end-to-end cycle, as it were. Before we kind of move on into some of the nuts and bolts of the implementation, just a quick one on that. Previously, what would have been the time frame between, say, one of your engineers installing or maintaining one of the assets out in the field and invoicing, for example?
Well, our engineers would complete their paperwork on site and then you'd have to wait for them to post it in.
Okay.
And once they posted it in, it's all a case of checking it and making sure it's all accurate. Any quotations, recommendations to be sent out from there as well. So really, from the time the engineer visited site through to actually sending out an invoice could take 1 or 2 weeks.
Wow, okay, and that's been reduced to what now?
Now we can, the engineer can attend site and invoice. We could do it in the same day.
And that brings us to the end of this particular excerpt from the interview. Now, fieldservicenews.com subscribers have already been given access to the full interview that I did with Jo. If you would like to be a fieldservicenews.com subscriber, the good news is subscription is complimentary for those of you that work in field service management. All you need to do is apply for your subscription on the link below. Use the link below and you'll get access to the full interview between myself and Jo, sent to you straight away as we process your application. But for now, thanks ever so much for taking the time to watch. My name is Kris Oldland, I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Field Service News, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.